Okay, go ahead and keep going.
Whoa.
Oh, is it on?
The light's on.
There you go. Is that better? There you go.
No, I had one childhood sweetheart through high school. One girl. And she was in the first, well, until I went in the service. Really.
When did you meet Mimi?
When I was in the service.
Oh, already? So how...
No, not already. I was in college. I took the test to go into pilot training. I passed them my sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
And I left college my fourth semester, second semester of my sophomore year to go into service.
Okay.
I left after the first semester was over. I stayed and I played a little semi-professional basketball waiting to go into service, and I went into service in March 1954.
So the school will call me like 12 times.
Pardon?
The school, you hear that? Mm-hmm. The school's letting me know, like, this is the third time they sent out an email, they sent out a text message, and then they call me. And I'm sure they've called my house as well, letting me know school is not happening tomorrow.
Then I went into service, and while I was in service, my girlfriend got pregnant. And when I came back, it wasn't mine, but I offered to marry her. But she was smart enough to know it wouldn't work. So we broke it off, and I hadn't met her yet.
Mm-mm.
No. Then I went to primary flight school, and then I came back, and then to Goodfellow, and then when I was at Goodfellow,
Goodfellow at San Angelo,
which was the final portions of my pilot training, then I graduated, and right after I graduated, I went through instructor school, and I went down Labor Day in San Antonio and met her.
Oh.
But she was down there too, playing around, chasing boys from the Air Force Base.
Yeah, well, she's, 2 years younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going for the young ones now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so getting back to more of your adolescence, what is your most memorable moment of being an adolescent, of 15 to 18 years old? What do you remember the most? Just your experiences on the river and whatnot, or?
When I was a sophomore in high school, I went to Montana to see my father, and I spent the summer with him. And while I was there, I made enough money to buy a Model A Ford.
Wow.
And I drove it home from Great Falls, Montana to Grafton while I was a sophomore. And then I kept it my junior and senior year in high school. But driving it home was probably one of the most standout times.
How old were you then? 16?
16.
At least? Yeah. I mean, did you stop along the way and whatnot, and you met people? Or
I stopped along the way. I stopped in what do you call it? The Badlands, up, where...
Badlands.
Up in
Black Hills.
Mount Rushmore and that area.
Black Hills, South Dakota.
And parked up on a hill, and some drunk Indians came up while I was asleep and scared me to death, and I started the vehicle and took off down the hill and didn't realize it, and I left my emergency brake on, and I burned up the brakes in my car. By the time I hit the bottom of the hill and got into town there's a town there, I forget which, Rapid City, I think. And got into Rapid City, and I had to have them pull the wheel off and take the emergency brakes out of the system so I could get home. But other than that, no, it was kind of uneventful. It was long and different for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I ever had an experience like that when I was 16. Not that I know of yet. Well, I guess I wasn't.
But that probably sticks in my mind. It was one of the more memorables.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's keep going. Johnston, if y'all think of anything, let me know. We'll go back and forth. All right, so we're going on to the family. This is kind of supposed to be looking at your demands, expectations, the systems. You know, think of it outside of just you yourself sometimes. Try to think of what your family expected of you, what society or the local governments may have expected of you. You know, as much as possible. You know, don't stress about trying to get into that, but...
Well, in grade school, the expectations other than to make grades and behave, I don't remember any particular expectations.
Just to get out of high school, basically?
Yeah, well then when I got into high school, Mom sent me to a Catholic high school the first 2 years of my high school. She figured the nuns could do a better job with me than she could, which was wrong. But the expectations of...
Why do you think it was wrong?
Well, my mother had the ability, unlike any person I have ever met before or since, she never raised her voice to me. She never laid a hand on me. And she used to tell me to do something, not to do something. And I would argue with her and everything else. But for some reason, I would never disobey her. It was just, she had that knack of making me so ashamed if I tried to do something that she didn't want me to do, that it wasn't worth it. So I never did it.
Do you think that's just because she was your mother, or is it how she treated you as an equal? It
was a way. It was her ability to handle me. She knew me and she knew how to handle me. That's all I can. The only way I can explain it. My best friend, used to say all the time, you know, my father would kill me if I talked to my mother that way. Of course, I didn't have a father, so it didn't make any difference.
Yeah, because you grew up in a single mom home.
Yeah, my father left when I was 7.
How much did Big Grandma be a part of your upbringing?
Quite a bit. When I was about, I'm going to say I was probably in the 5th or 6th grade, where my grandmother was working, living with her, her sister had married a man, and her sister had died. And he invited Grandma over to cook for him and keep house for him, and allowed her to run a little egg farm and run a garden, and he would sell this stuff to people in town. And so she had some money, because otherwise she had no way of making money. People back, there was no such thing as welfare in those days. Right,
no, understandably.
And so she did it. Well, then Uncle Harry, the man she was living with, died. And when Uncle Harry died, Grandma didn't know where she was going to go. And we only had a 2-bedroom house.
You just bought that house?
Yeah, we had just bought it. So I said, Mom had given me one room, and she had her own. And I said, well, Grandma, you can come live with us and have my bedroom. And she did.
So where'd you sleep?
With Mom, in Mom's room.
In her room?
Yeah. We had twin beds in her room.
How old were you at that time?
14.
14.
Yeah.
So
and clear up through college, and when he was into the Air Force, he shared a room with his mother, which you can't see the boys doing right now.
No, I would never do that. How did you feel about sleeping in the same room with your mother?
I didn't think about it.
Because you had a responsibility, yeah.
It seemed normal. It was perfectly normal.
For a lot of people of your age, like your peers, that had similar situations?
No, most of my peers had fathers. There were 2 families.
Yeah.
I don't remember any of the kids that I was. Yeah, I do too. One other guy. but he had 5 brothers and sisters.
Oh, wow.
So it was a different situation.
Yeah, you're an only child.
Yeah. Well, and we had a very small house.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And in the summertime stuff, I'd sleep out on the porch. We had a big porch, great big porch.
Wrapping all around the house?
No, all the way across the back of the house.
Back, and it was screened in.
Oh, well, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's nice. All right, let's see. Kind of keep going. Some of this might repeat some of what you've already told me, so stop me if you need to. With whom did you live? So you lived with, during this time period, so you lived with Big Grandma and your mom, and you lived in your mother's room. It was you only. Who do you think had more, like, was it your mom that really made sure that you followed your rules and whatnot, versus Big Grandma was just kind of there?
Well, she wasn't just kind of there. Big Grandma did a lot of things that Mom never wanted to do. Mom was one of the original...
Yeah, but your mother ran the house, is what she's asking, and
yeah,
made the rules for you.
Yeah, but as far as influencing me, she never did really give me, the mundane things, you know. She'd say, you need to go to the store for me, or you need to do this, or you need to do that for me, you know, whatever, something that she needed. But generally, she didn't do anything. She washed the clothes, cooked the food. Mom was one of the original woman livers. Mom hated housework, and she didn't like to cook. She would and could,
Yeah.
but she really didn't care that much about it. She was a professional woman, and she really was. She run a business, and she worked for other people too. Run 2 or 3 things so that we had
enough money and whatnot,
yeah.
and everything.
But so yeah, Grandma didn't have that much influence on me from that standpoint. No.
How much education did your mom have?
She was a graduate of a business college in Alton. She went to a business college,
A business
2-year
college?
junior college type thing.
Okay.
And she took a business college and she worked there. She didn't have a full year bachelor's degree. No.
Okay, so it's almost like an associate, or it was like a vocational training almost.
Vocational. But that was really big back in our time. Girls would go, they'd learn typing, bookkeeping, shorthand.
When her father died, and her mother asked her to come home, she quit her job in Alton, her business job, and she came back and she worked and helped Grandma Norton, her mom, take care of the remaining 8 kids were there?
6 maybe.
6 or 7.
6.
Still there, and she taught school with that associate degree.
Yeah.
And she taught school.
She kind of keep you up on your education?
Oh, he wasn't born then.
Oh, well, but I mean...
When I was growing up, no, she never did anything on my education.
Oh, okay.
She never looked at my homework. She never did anything on my education at all. But I never had any trouble with school. I was a
good kid,
straight A student, and I never took any books on. Well, now, when I was a Marquette, I did. Yeah, when I was Marquette, that Catholic school, that was tough work. It was a different ballgame.
Okay, you kind of talked about how you were able to talk to your mom in some ways different than, obviously, other kids were able to. Were you allowed to express your opinions or your ideas?
Yeah, and I did. Very vocal.
Were you or how was that opinions? Were you constantly at opposite ends? Were you meeting a lot, or was it good?
No, we agreed on lots of things, and we agreed on things like religions and politics and good people and bad people. Mom was a good judge of people, really good judge of people.
She kind of teach you the same thing?
Huh?
She kind of teach you the same way?
Yeah, I think so. But she was a better judge than I ever became. But she was a really good judge of people. And she always said, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you what you are.
Fair enough. Was there anything in particular that you remember being at opposite ends with her, and that's something y'all never agreed on during this time period, during this adolescence age?
That we never agreed on.
Like, you know, if you wanted to stay out these late hours, or, you know, whatever it may be.
No, she never,
whatever it is.
Well, she, on the late hours and stuff, you know, I had so many responsibilities, I didn't stay out late hours.
Right.
And then I got so involved in athletics, I was playing ball at night or practicing at night. You know, you practice basketball and then you come home and you got a show to sweep. And I'd close the show down sometimes at 11:30, and then I'd have to go down and sweep the thing.
Do you think you had more issues, if you had issues, do you think were they more home related or were they more work related, since she was somewhat your boss as well?
Issues, I'd say the biggest issues was she kept a fairly tight rein on me in what I did and where I went, and I was constantly at odds with her about doing that. You know, I'd want to go out, grab my gun and go out and
Go hunting.
stay all night in the woods and get up next morning and go hunting and everything else. And she didn't want me to do that sometimes. And I wanted to swim in the river all the time, and she didn't want me to swim in the river.
And that was probably the biggest.
That was probably the biggest confrontation we had, was swimming in the river.
Why? Why the river?
Well, she's scared to death of the river. Mom couldn't swim, and she's scared of water.
Oh.
And hell, I was swimming in the river when I was 8.
Yeah.
So, and I swam the river, clear across the river one night, and she about died.
Yeah. So, heard that one coming. Was it kind of, you know, as the stuff that you were at odds with, was it my way or the highway type thing, or was it you kind of do whatever you want, but I'm going to be upset with you?
Mom's constant phrase is, "I wish you wouldn't do that."
Oh. But you're allowed to do, you weren't allowed to do it, but if you did.
No, I was allowed to do it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I wish you wouldn't do that. That's all she'd ever say. And then I'd sit there and I'd tell her why I needed to do it. And she'd say, "Well, I still wish you wouldn't do it."
To make you feel guilty.
It was very effective.
What was your kind of like social economic status?
We were probably upper middle class.
Compared to, like, in your town?
To my buddies in the town.
Yeah.
The town was poor. The town had one source of income, two. Fishermen, professional fishermen, that fished the river. And we had a big powder mill, diamond powder company, that made dynamite and powder for the military and other things, construction. And that powder mill hired probably half the town population worked at the powder mill.
Wow.
And the other half fished.
Was it kind of, which out of the two was the better place to go considerably in that town? The powder mill or the fishing?
You mean as far economically?
Yeah. Or were they about the
Fishing.
same?
I mean powder mill.
Powder mill?
Yeah.
Was it more stable?
Well, it was until the war was over. When the war was over, it was bought out by another company, and the other company ran it, and the workers decided this other company, which was a very big dynamite company, it was statewide of Illinois, it was a real big company, and they thought they could strike and get more money, and the powder company told them, "Don't do that, because if you do that, we don't really need this plant. We'll close the plant." And they struck, and they closed the plant, and that was the end of it.
But during your kind of adolescence, there in that 15 to 18.
At that point in time, I was in the middle of high school. I was probably a sophomore in high school. And
that at that time, the powder mill was considered to be a more stable job than fishing.
Prior to that happening, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fishing just couldn't make that much money. It was stable, but you couldn't make that much money at it. I mean, you couldn't really get rich at it. You just lived off of it.
Yeah.
You could make a living, but that's all.
Yeah. Okay.
But nobody in town had much money. You know, I'd say the average income of our town when I was in high school was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000.
Wow. And how much do you think that your family was?
I would say Mom probably was making twice that.
Twice that. Okay. So you're doing pretty well off. You know?
Yeah, we were upper middle. We were upper middle class. That's what I say.
Yeah.
And because I was the only child.
Yeah.
And Mom had her little house, and Grandma was there, and she had to feed us all. But really, the expenses were relatively low because we didn't have a big family to take care of.
Yeah. Did since you were the only child, and on top of that, you're male. Did you have a specific role in the family to do certain things other than the movie theater and stuff like that?
Well, I worked in the theater there, and by the time I was 7th or 8th grade, I don't know whether it was expected of me or not. I never really thought much about it, but I did. I went out and got jobs, and I worked on farms for farmers, helped put up hay and cut hogs and anything that they needed, shovel horse shit, you know, whatever they needed.
Whatever it was, yeah.
And I worked in apple. We had a huge apple orchard, the biggest in the state of Illinois. Right, and this guy would hire us kids to do work, and I'd hoe trees and spray trees and pick apples and do all this stuff, all the things the migrant laborers came in there to do. But I was a kid, I'd do it too, because
Yeah.
I could make $4 or $5 a day sometimes, which is a lot of money.
I was thinking that's a lot of money for, you know, a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it was what, only for
Well, I didn't. Mom set that up, and we put it in the bank, and she taught me how to put it in the bank and how to save. And
So you never used any of it, really?
oh, I used some of it.
Some of it?
Yeah. I had my laugh and play money.
Okay, kind of moving on. Did your parents have, like, any particular expectations for you for your future? Like, did they help you move in a certain direction of some type, or was it up in the air?
Oh, I always thought Mom probably wanted me to succeed, but as far as pushing me in one direction or the other to try to do something, I didn't. And I went to college on my own, at my own recommendation of my teachers and my scholarship, and I made the decision to go in the Air Force on my own. And no, I don't think they really, either one of them ever guided me one way or the other. My dad taught me to hunt, but you can't make a living hunting.
Yeah. Did your dad, I mean, I know that he wasn't really around much, you know, but did he care about where you're going in your future? Not really?
It's hard to say. No, that's not the type of thing. I don't know about when you were young, but parents didn't talk about things like that in those days.
No, a lot of parents didn't. No.
No.
And nothing has ever, I mean, I think the biggest goal that they expected of us was to get out of high school.
Yeah, make sure.
Well, yeah,
And then hopefully marry somebody nice that could take care of you.
well, in my case, though, they expected you to get out of high school
Yeah.
and try to go to college.
Ours is either get married or get a job.
And
Yeah.
she encouraged me to go to college. And when they found out I could get a scholarship, well, they encouraged that. She encouraged that.
Do you believe that it was more so since they didn't put you, you kind of built in your own personal goals? Like, whenever you got into high school, and obviously I'm assuming your teachers were recommending you to go to college.
They always said, look, you're good at math, you're good at science, you ought to be an engineer. You can make good money being an engineer. Go to college and be an engineer. In all honesty, all I ever wanted to do was fly an airplane.
Okay. So you kind of knew that's where you're going at some time.
Well, no, I didn't know it. I just dreamed about it. But I didn't pursue it until somebody told me that they needed pilots and that all you had to do is pass these tests and they'd take you.
And you being good at math and science was very helpful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It helped me pass those tests. The tests that they gave us to get into pilot training were pretty extensive. 3 days.
I don't doubt that.
3 days, and one day was physical, but the other 2 days was very extensive, written examinations and coordination testing and all kinds of crap like that.
Yeah. So when you went to college, when you actually went, what did you go for?
To get an engineer's degree.
Engineer's degree. But do you think that the college side actually, the academic side persuaded you, or the basketball side persuaded you?
My high school teachers and my ability to in science and math is what encouraged me to go in that field. I hated college. I hate all the college, even though I got a degree. I hated college.
You hated college, so you kind of went for basketball.
I didn't like the academician. I hate the academician. They're so ultra liberal. They're so
Don't get on your soapbox. Just answer a question.
I'm just telling you, I was never. I